What's up, everyone? I just finished having an in-depth chat with award-winning American country Americana singer-songwriter Hannah Blaylock. In this newest episode, we talked about being raised in Alaska, hometown of Arkansas, leaving Eden's Edge, chasing a solo career, journey to Nashville, three times a lady trio, music idols, returning to her country Americana roots, importance of airplay, powerful, personal, immersive out-of-body experience in music, passion for collaborating, who she would play a song with in heaven, and more. And now, with that being said, here's my conversation with Hannah. Hannah, hello.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for taking the time to talk with me. I mean, we have a lot to talk about, and I know that you've been very busy. I know that you've been making songs, and you have a new song out today, called "Catch the Wind."
I do.
Which
Thanks for
which
knowing
is
that.
listen. I must do my research on people, and I knew that you had a song coming out, and we're gonna have to talk about it later on this interview. But I need to talk about something. You were born in Alaska.
I was raised in Alaska until I was 7. I was technically born in Arkansas and that's where my parents are from, and a lot of my family still lives there. But I was born in the summertime, which is when they would come down and see family in the summer because my dad was the teacher. And then we went back up to Alaska. I lived there till I was 7. Yeah. Have you ever been?
No, I have not been.
Yeah, it was a great way to grow up. I was really grateful for that experience. Even now, I look back on that and I feel very blessed that I got to have such a unique experience from like anything that the rest of my family ever knew and the rest of my life ever was. It was totally different. Um, and I feel like it gave me the gift of always having a sense that the world is an expansive place and that there's more than one way to do something right.
Yeah, and do you feel Alaska was just that sense of home for you?
I feel the sense of home. That's an interesting question. I don't know that I feel that that's the most thing that rings true. I mean, it's the only home I knew really until I was 7 and we moved back to Arkansas, but I do feel like it gave me a beautiful foundation for entering into the world and entering into life. And it gave me a lot of amazing experiences. And a lot of that was centered around just being connected to the earth, connected to nature, and being in touch with that cycle of life and respect for the earth. I mean, you can't live in Alaska and not respect Mother Nature. It's impossible.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my family and my parents almost died a couple times and they were really smart about things. You can't mess around in Alaska, but it gave me gifts like that. And, you're a minority if you're a Caucasian, which in America, especially, how many places do you get to experience that? And I think that's valuable. And so there's experiences that I've had from a very, very young age that not many people can say that they have. So thanks, Alaska. And
Yeah,
thanks to my
absolutely.
mom and dad for just being willing to pack up and like move across the country and have an adventure with kids while having children. Like I just had my first child. He's 2.5, and I'm like, I can't imagine like packing up all my stuff and then like moving to a place where it's dark 3-4 months of the year and it's light all day 4 months of the year. Just a totally different lifestyle. They did it, man. They did it with style and grace.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't mind me asking, how is the mom life?
It's amazing. It's been such a dream for me. And thank you for asking. I feel like so many times in the world, and especially in interviews, like it's it's not convenient for people to see artists as multifaceted. And I think that does a disservice to everyone involved. Being a mother is one of the greatest gifts and joys and dreams come true in my life. Like I've always wanted to be a mom. It's something that um, has been a calling that it's always been something I've been passionate about doing. And one of the silver linings of the pandemic is I've gotten to spend a lot of quality time with my son as a result, not being gone and things like that. So we're best friends. It's the best. Do you have
Yeah,
kids?
no, I do not.
You don't have kids. Well, if you choose to go on that journey, um, much like the music business, it's a lot of work, but it's also really rewarding in ways that you can't quantify. So
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and obviously, so what is it? Is it a baby boy or baby girl?
His name is Memphis. He's a boy.
Oh, Memphis.
Hmm.
See. Tell us the reasoning behind the name. Why Memphis?
My husband has always loved that name. It means beautiful and enduring. And just a very historic name. It's one of the first capitals in Egypt and different things like that. Just it's been on in the memory bank for a long time. So my husband said if we end up having a boy, I'd like to name him Memphis.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I've been trying to see what my name meant, but it's
Yeah. What does your name?
I've heard from several people about it, and they said that your name practically means lucky, in a
That's
sense,
amazing.
right? It's crazy how this connects now. And so we have to talk about, obviously you said that you have a baby boy and his name is Memphis. Do you ever feel that he will eventually get into the music aspect of his life?
I feel like that's not up to me. That I mean, who knows? My job is to, as his parent, is to be a guide in supporting him and wherever his heart wants to lead. So I don't know. That's the
Absolutely.
that's the beauty and the wonder of where we're at right now. I will say that he really loves music. So does his dad. His dad, my whole family is in the music business, and my husband is tone deaf, but is the best DJ in the family. He's got the best musical ear for a good song and a good vibe. And my son is that way for sure. He loves to get connected and through music, and he loves the dance, and so that's really fun. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. And talk to me more about your musical inspirations.
Oh, in what sense? There's so many.
Well, I am aware that you have a lot of musical influences because a few days ago while I was doing some research, I was listening to some of your music, and I was watching some of your covers that you did, and actually today, just before the interview started, I was watching your cover of Patty Griffith, "Up to the Mountain." What a great song!
Oh my gosh.
It's such a great song, and then obviously I was watching the Three Times a Lady video,
Yeah.
and the medley of Emmylou, Dolly, and Linda Ronstadt.
Yep.
And it
Hmm.
was done with Kennedy Scott, yourself, and Lauren Massetti, who I adore. Lauren Massetti is just a gifted songwriter and performer, and her voice is amazing.
Agreed.
And so is both of yours, and it takes you back to those days of, the young Emmylou days, and the young Dolly Parton, Linda Ronstadt days. Um, Talk to me more about sort of that realm of inspirations.
Um, well, there's that realm for sure. And then I grew up on 90s country, so all the Patty Griffins, the Judds, um, the the Trisha Yearwoods, Faith Hill, all of that. I grew up loving that stuff as well. And then my parents, I listen to country radio a lot because I went to a school. I grew up in the middle of nowhere on a farm, and I went to a school that was an hour away. And so I was on a teacher schedule too, because like I said, my dad was a speech therapist, and so we had to get to his. He had to drop me off at my school and get to his school early, and then I had to take a bus from my school to his school afterwards and wait on him to be done with work. So all that to say, I had a lot of time on my hands before and after school to listen to the radio. And so that was a huge influence for me. Also, in our house, my parents listened to and exposed us to a lot of 70s music it's just that timeless music, like the Eagles and Dan Fogelberg. And I listened to a lot of Susan Ashton, which is actually a Christian artist. But I love her so much. And Nancy Griffith was a huge inspiration, which is a lot more like songwriter Americana. So it was a really cool eclectic mix, but all kind of in that vein of country Americana. And I sure have stuck true to that throughout the years. I like swimming in that sea, and expanding through all of those moments. That's one of the things I really respect about Linda's taste and career, is that when she makes records, she cuts all kinds of stuff. She cuts all kinds of songs, and you kind of don't even know what genre it fits in. It's just Linda. And I feel like people have said that variable about the record that I'm putting out right now, and that's been a huge compliment to me. I've been really grateful that people have kind of had that ear about that, because I mean, as an artist, we're all just trying to like follow our hearts and make what inspires us, and share that into the world and hope it helps somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you can see, I do have a record player.
Nice. Yeah, good
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah, I collect a lot of records. What do I have? I have James Taylor, I have Merle Haggard, Vince Gill. What else do I have? I have the Creedence Clearwater Revival. I have a lot of Jim Croce, a lot of Kenny Rogers, I will say. Love Kenny Rogers a lot. Lionel Richie. Oh, it goes down the line. I have a lot of Frank Sinatra's, Bing Crosby's.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
so
amazing.
that's
What a great, yeah, that's like a great expansive list of like the tried and trues right there.
yeah, like I love listening to a lot of like old music, as you can
Hmm.
tell. Like I like modern music, but the thing is like nothing compares to what it was back then. Like that was the roots of music basically. Um and like there are times where I can listen to a lot of instrumental music. I like to listen to what was it? It was Guy Lombardo. I think Guy Lombardo's All Lang Syne.
Hmm.
And I was watching this documentary because in college they would teach you about, because I attended a radio broadcasting program in college, and they would show you this documentary about radio, and they actually in the documentary it shows the times when Old Lang Syne was popular by Guy Lombardo, and tells you about how music sounded back then to how it is now, and all the disc jockeys and whatever were so different compared to today. And it opened my eyes in terms of how this whole radio world now works, and how hard it is for artists to get their music on radio now. And so, can you talk to me more about the difficulties of being an up and coming artist, but also having that airplay and how important that is and crucial to a career?
It's interesting. I moved to Nashville in 2007, and so I've been doing it professionally since then, and in a lot of different facets. I've had a couple lives worth of projects and different vehicles that I've made art in, and some of that has included country radio, and some of that hasn't. And even just in my short, in the scheme of time, especially just a blip of an experience in this industry, it's completely changed. It's completely done. I mean, completely changed the way that. So it's just so fast. Everything's changing so fast. One thing that I really love about how it currently is now is the expansiveness that's happened as a result of streaming. Now, we need to be paying people a lot more than we are. Royalties are kind of we need to figure out a new structure. Like the music business is trying to solve, okay, how are we going to make this work financially? Because especially the songwriter realms, like songwriters aren't going to survive if we don't figure something out. And I think people are really working hard on that. I know people in this industry that are really being champions for artists and songwriters in the streaming world, and that's definitely needed. But streaming has created this whole other access point to a audience. And so although it is so vast, it can be very overwhelming. I mean, anybody can put out a song through streaming, and you don't have to have a radio promotion team and go on radio tour and do all those things. And also that audience is the people that listen to that and the people that funnel the art through that ends up being a very specific thing. Now art can be expansive, because you can share all these different things, and the people get to decide. And I really like that. I think that's really fun.
Yeah,
It's a cool, and
absolutely.
I also love, I really love collaborating as just as a personality. I'm kind of like that, you know. Um, I've always been that way. I can create by myself for sure and enjoy doing that, but it doesn't light me up as much as when I'm doing it with other people. I'm even like working out. I'm like a group fitness person, you know. So in the regards of how the business is, you know, when you collaborate with other artists, all ships rise. Like it's such an all ships rise culture now. And it's like so my MO. I'm so excited about all of that. And I'm using it to my advantage fully. I'm having so much fun with that. I do the 3 Times a Lady project. I just released a single with my friend Cody Ballou. You know, I mean, the possibilities are endless. How much fun do you want to have? Like, that's what it feels like. So I'm into it.
Well, I mean, I think we're all on board with that as well. And obviously, you know what? I really think that you and Kennedy and Lauren should record that medley in a studio and release it.
That'd be fun.
Like I really think that would actually resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah,
Like
well, I mean, we needed. I want to get a tip of the hat of some sort from Dolly Linda and Emily. Be like, is this okay? I mean, we're just grateful to sing those songs and that people care about those songs like we do because we all grew up listening to those records, and they meant so much to us and were so pivotal in the music that we decided to pursue and create ourselves. I mean, such a source of inspiration. So it's cool to hear that other people are liking it too. And I do, you know, like how you were saying, like there's nothing like that music from back then. Well, I think that we're in it all like anything, especially in art, it's all like a pendulum, right? So the pendulum is going back towards stuff that feels more natural to me, that timeless music, that kind of like anything that has that classic timeless feel. I just naturally tend to just sit in that space. And it seems to be a wave that's really fun to be a part of.
yeah, absolutely. You know, like I was having a great discussion about with another artist that I had on at the beginning of this year. I was talking with Eli Paperboy Reed about you know, like this thing about recording music. And I asked him this question and I asked him, when do you know when your songs are done or an album is done? When do you know that? And he says it's a process. It's really a process to understand how, because you never know when a song is done. You just never know because one thing can sound really good and then you kind of attach yourself to another thing and then you say that this could be better, this could be fixed here or there. And so I want to ask you, because as an artist for country music, I need to ask you, when do you know that your song is done or an album is done?
Yeah, what a great question. I feel like in general, albums are chapters in life. So, I mean, to an artist, they represent what they're currently experiencing or going through in their life. So when do you know that that's over? It's almost like you don't know until it passed, right? You look back and you're like, oh yeah, I guess that was done. So to me, that's how it feels. Um, and as far as like the creative process, I was actually listening to Rick Rubin's new book, and he describes it so well. He has like different phases of creativity, and you know, I feel like I respect that the perspective that a song is never done, right? But and so I do always feel like it's important to look at a song and see if you see any holes that you didn't see before and how you can improve it. I fully respect that, but I do feel like there is a point when you need to, when your heart sits right in it. If it never feels done, and it always feels like it needs to be improved upon, maybe you get a better song. You know, that's also a thought. But I do feel that there's a huge value depending on the personality. You know, we all have different challenges with our personalities, but as an artist, we have got to see things through. Like we have to finish a work, put it out there, and keep making more art. You know, so the
Absolutely.
value of that transition is difficult for some people, for some more than others. And then, you know, different records can have that it can be easier for some records than it is for other records because it's just a different season in life. It's just a totally different experience. You have different emotions, different growth, it's just all so unique.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the funny thing, because I was listening to another interview, and this was like a long time ago, this interview. And it was with Shawn Mendes, and he was asked, I think he was on the On Air with Ryan Seacrest show, and he was asking Shawn about when he's releasing an album, and he was asking him, do you ever listen to your music? Do you actually ever listen to your music? And he says, I only can listen to it once every 4 months. And why do I do that? Is because if I listen to it, let's say 4 times a month or 5 times a month or 10 times a month, then I'll get another idea to make another album. And that's the thing, you just released an album, and then you have another idea that comes up every time you listen to your albums on repeat. And then you want to recreate something, recreate another thing, and then recreate another album, even though you just released something, right? So giving that time for that album to breathe on its own, and then going on a press tour and covering it and then promoting it. But at the same time, having that feeling of, well, I need to fix this and I fix that. This could have been better, or this song should have been on the album, or this song should have been on the B side of the album. Like all of these things I feel come into play with music and songwriting and creating projects. How much of that goes into what you think of music too?
Well, I can tell you I relate to what he's saying right now in my life, because I'm releasing this work. I'm releasing this album throughout this year. And I mean, it's already done though, right? So now I'm in that promotional stage of the art process and the creative process, and my heart and my brain is already kind of moving on to the next thing. So it is a little bit of a challenge for an artist, and for me, I suppose, it just speak for myself, to stay in this zone. And there are different parts of your brain too, the promotional part, the like task oriented part, that's like, more your left brain, and your right brain is wanting to say, hey, you haven't created in a while, So I kind of got to feed that a little bit this week. I've been writing a lot. Actually, this 3 Times Lady group, we've been writing songs for that project this week. And then I'll switch back to my promotional part, but I can absolutely relate to what he's saying. I tend to, when the work is done and I've released it, I'll listen to it to make sure everything's fine. But I'm not one of those that like listens to my songs. I've written it. I've already experienced it. Now we're on to the new phase of other people experiencing it. So from my perspective, now I get to experience other people experiencing it. That's what phase I'm in now,
Absolutely. And I was just chatting with Ashley Campbell, Glenn Campbell's daughter.
Yeah.
Just before you came on, and I was asking her because obviously her father passed of Alzheimer's, and I wanted to ask her about, she does a lot of like work about and conversations about how the brain affects music, and I was picking her mind about why she believes and how she believes the brain affects music. And I was just doing some research on her, and she said this about the brain affecting music. She said, in the center of the piece, certain parts of the brain are depicted in gold, such as the hippocampus and the hypothalamus. In certain parts of the brain, music has been thought to increase neurogenesis, allowing the production of new neurons and improving memory. The way the brain responds to music is a beautiful mystery. It creates a landscape for our memories to dwell in, like a beautiful garden of memories. Right?
Wow.
Like, and so that correlates with what you were just saying about how sort of this whole brain thing that works with music, about, your left side of the brain, your right side of the brain, and then one side says you want to create something, and then another says, well, let's do this instead.
Right.
Right? Like everything just correlates with that. And I think that like there's so much things that I feel like we want to do. Like there are so many things I think that we as humans want to do, but at the same time, I think we have to realize and take a step back and say, Well, maybe let's park it a bit here and do something different for once and try something that we haven't done before and make it a challenge. Because I feel like for me as like a host of a podcast, I feel like I used to do this like this whole style of interviews, and then I look at different people like Larry King and I look at people like Barbara Walters and I say, I want to do that style of interviews. Like I want to do that style of interviews. So now I've changed it. I said I want to do this moving forward. I want to have this type of style, but also being inspired by other people, right? And so I this is why I like to have like some in-depth conversations. I don't want it to be some cringy type, usual media interviews that people usually do. Um, and so I want to talk about obviously you were in a group called Eden's Edge.
Yeah.
And something that struck me was obviously with all the accomplishments that they've had, you left the band after 10 years. And so you left the band after 10 years in order to chase the solo career. Why was that change important for you?
I don't know that it even was necessarily to chase the solo career. It was just life comes in phases and seasons, and um, it was, to be honest, it was kind of like a divorce. So, if there's anybody out there that's ever had a divorce, it was a little bit like that because we'd had lived together, been professionally married for 10 years, but I'm so grateful for that season in my life. I was super young, and we were given so many insane opportunities, and I still can't believe we got to have those experiences, and I had an absolute blast. And it was such a blessing. But I am one of those souls that just believes that no matter what, especially as an artist, if we want to make the world a better place, we have to choose happiness. And for ourselves, and we're in my family, we're really, really big on that philosophy of you fill up your own cup so that your loved ones and the world gets the overflow, instead of that that mentality you take water out of your own cup to give to somebody else. And so I just kind of make that the compass in my life. And even if that means I have to make tough decisions sometimes, and that was one of those tough decisions for me. It was maybe one of the toughest decisions I've ever made in my life. I'm really grateful that I made it. And even though that it meant that I went through some valleys, but I got to make some beautiful art. I still get to make beautiful art. And everybody goes through mountains and valleys, and artists are just the people that decide to be vulnerable and talk about it. And that was one of those for me.
Absolutely. And so with 8 minutes remaining on this meeting time, I want to ask you this question. And honestly, you just released a new single called Catch the Wind.
Yes.
Talk to me about that creation.
I wrote that song with Autumn McIntyre, who's one of the co-producers on my new project. She has been writing with me for the past decade and is one of my closest soul friends in my life. And another artist that I'm a huge fan of, Logan Brill. We wrote that song, and it was just one of those like easy, beautiful creations. And I've always just really, really loved it. So I was really grateful that it made it on the record. And it's a song about a beautiful dynamic between two people. And the singer is talking about a romantic relationship she's having with another person. And the metaphor is like this person is like the wind. And they come in and have these beautiful experiences together, and then the other person leaves. And the thing about it is, and the reason why I think the song is so beautiful, is there's not really like anger in the song or resentment. It's like this realization that the singer has of like, oh, this is just who this person is. Like, they're not trying to be malicious in any way. They're not trying to hurt me. They're just, this is the realm, this is the energetic realm that they live in. And coming to that acceptance, mourning that kind of heartbreak that's never going to change, and kind of staying in that moment. So that's what the song's about. If you've ever been in a relationship where that's happened, I've been in a relationship like that before in the past. I just feel like it viscerally captured that feeling. And that's what good songs do to me. They put you in that moment, you know. And Catch the Wind definitely does that for me. And I love the melody so much. And it was so much fun to create that song and record it with my producers, Autumn and Jared Conrad.
Absolutely. And if anyone hasn't heard the song yet, go stream it. It's a really great song, and congrats on the release of that song. It's gonna be a success. And
Thank you, friend.
and so as we're wrapping up, I have to ask you this question, and this question has challenged every single person that has been on this podcast.
Ooh,
No
pressure.
But they've answered it with full honesty, which I appreciate. So I'm gonna pose it to you now. If you were to play a song with anybody who's already up in heaven, who would it be, and what song would you play?
Oh, it's already up in heaven. It's already up in heaven. You know, usually people ask me, who would it be that's alive? I would say Vince Gill if it's someone that's alive. Go rest high on that mountain, Vince Gill. I'm cheating. I'm not.
Hey, listen. I love Vince Gill. Vince Gill is my favorite country artist right now.
Oh my gosh, he's the best.
You know what? Like I actually did a.
You know what? Nancy Griffith just died, so I would say Nancy Griffith. And
I can understand that. Yeah.
God, that was such a hard day for me. And then, gosh, how can I pick one of her songs? It's so hard. This is a hard question. My dad has Trouble in the Fields. That's what I would pick. Trouble in the Fields.
Yeah. You know, like for me, I think, you know, obviously there's been so many people that I would probably pick from, but if I were to pick one, my person would probably be I'd probably say probably Frank Sinatra.
Which song?
Frank Sinatra. Like Frank Sinatra has so many hit songs.
I know, right? This is a tough question. I really respect you for asking a hard question and then answering yourself. I respect you a lot.
Well, I would say there's so many songs to choose from, but if I were to pick one, oh man, Monday Morning Quarterback is a great one. But if I were to choose a song, it'd be In the Wee Small Hours of the Morning.
Awesome.
That's a great song. And for Vince Gill songs,
yeah,
I mean, you cannot pass up on Whenever You Come Around.
Oh my God, right?
That's a song. And if people haven't heard my cover of Whenever You Come Around, go watch it.
I would love to watch that.
Yeah,
you covered it. You've covered it.
Yeah, I've covered it. My brother filmed the video of the cover, and we actually did it in black and white instead of color, because it was a song in the 1990s, I think. Yeah. So it's a great song. Oh, there's another one. There's so many. When Love Finds You was a great one. Go Rest High on the Mountain. I mean, you cannot pass up on that. But then that wouldn't be a song for me. That would be a song for Vince personally, because that was his brother's song. Like that was his song for his brother. Like, even though I respect people for covering it, that's Vince's song. You know, it just belongs to one person only, and one person only. It's Vince. But I think if you're really gonna be like a cowboy type song, I'd probably say What the Cowgirls Do. That's the most cowboy song of Vince Gill. You know, even though Liza Jane was good, Liza Jane was really good, but What the Cowgirls Do was the real honky tonk song of all.
That's right.
And you know, like George Strait. I mean, George Strait is a really good one too. I mean, we can go on and on about country stars. And so my final question to you, and this is going to be another challenging question, if we can keep this short with this answer. So here's the question. What is the most powerful, immersive, personal, out-of-body experience in music?
The most powerful, immersive.
Personal, out-of-body experience in music.
That I've had.
Yes.
Okay. Singing on the Opry was, I don't know that I got to sing on the Opry on the Ryman stage the last night that before the floors were placed on the stage.
Okay.
There are ghosts in that place, and there's spirit. I don't like the word ghost. I shouldn't say that. It's like there's spirits in that place. You get up on that stage and you feel every spirit that's there. I've never been in a venue in my life that holds anything close to what the Ryman Auditorium is. So
For sure. Well, it's the end of our time together, but thank you so much for chatting with me. It's such a blast with chatting with you today.
yes, thanks so much for asking me on the show.
If you want to connect with Hannah, you can find her on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and on TikTok. You can help support my show by sharing with family and friends on all social media. To connect with me, you can find me on all social media platforms. You can stream my show on all podcast streaming platforms. I've been your host, Jigme Kelsang. Thanks for tuning into the show.